نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. Okay, we're now entering another section in the surah. We've seen already a few different types of ayahs. We've seen a few different types of ayahs. One type of ayah is the description of a personality type or belief type. We saw the people of taqwa, we saw the kafirs, we saw the munafiqs, now we just saw the fasiqs. We saw another type of ayah, this is the parable or the metaphor, mathala. And this we saw the analogy of the person who is who's kindling a fire, and the person who's walking through the storm, and the person who's taking steps looking for light from the lightning. And now we have another type of ayah, and this is history. So first question, a very simple basic question. When the Qur'an tells us something has happened in history that seems to contradict science, do we believe that that event happened literally, that event happened? For example, Moses, peace be upon him, is being chased, him and his people are being chased by the Pharaoh. They come to the sea, he takes his staff, hits the ground, and then the sea splits into two mountains of water, and their path is here. Do we believe that that happened?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, we believe that happened. Or that's the overwhelming majority opinion. But what is the primary function of history in the Quran?
Just to see the lesson.
Exactly. The primary function is the lesson. Okay. We regard it all as true, but the primary function of the history in the Quran for our purposes is the lesson of the history. Why is this point important? Especially when we compare and contrast how does the Quran speak versus how does the Bible speak. How does the Bible begin in Genesis? Anybody know? In the beginning, it's Genesis, the beginning of everything. God created light, God created this, so forth and so on. Right? How does the New Testament begin? This is the story of Jesus. This person was begat, this person who begat, this person who begat, this person who begat, this person, and then they get into the story of Jesus, peace be upon him. But what happens often, especially if you're coming from this culture, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, coming from this culture, when you read the history in the Quran, one thing you find yourself thinking is, okay, wait, that's it, that's the whole story, 9 lines. And the goal is to find what is the lesson. So we know that the story we are about to look at, this is the story of Adam and Eve, peace be upon them, and the devil, Shaitan al-Rajim. We know that this story comes over maybe about 7 different times in the Quran. Okay? All giving different parts of the story, in some cases repeating the same parts. But what is being said in this moment, what we're going to look at, we're looking for those specific lessons. Okay? So in some cases, Allah gives us a lesson by a parable. Okay? In some cases, Allah gives us a lesson by describing a type of believer or rejecter. And here Allah is giving us a lesson through history. Again, I know that we all understand this. I'm emphasizing this point because it's often easy to get caught up in the scientific side, the historical side. Key function for us is the lesson. In other traditions, their history is centrally important. Right? If we look at the practices in Judaism, the holidays in Judaism, they all, or at least all that I can remember, have some historical importance. This is what happened to us, and this is what happened to us, and this is what happened to us. But you can do Ramadan, you can do all the fasting of Ramadan, and you can celebrate Eid and not know anything about the history in the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And that won't change your experience of Ramadan. Right? Or the other Eid, right? We have little Eid and big Eid. For us, the lesson is the most important part. Okay? So now, let's first look at the whole section, ayah 30 through 39. And if we, inshallah, we can make it through the whole thing, we will. If not, we'll put part of it for next week. Let's see, who would like to read for us? You want to read for us?
Prophet, when your Lord told the angels, I am putting a successor on earth, they said, how can you put someone there who will cause damage and bloodshed? When we celebrate your praise and proclaim your holiness. But he said, I know things you do not. He taught Adam all the names of things. Then he showed them to the angels and said, tell me the names of those. Please, if you truly think you can. They said, may you be glorified. We have knowledge only of what you have taught us. You are the all-knowing and all-wise. Then he said, Adam, tell them the names of these. When he told them their names, God said, did I not tell you that I know what is hidden in the heavens and the earth, and that I know what you reveal and what you conceal? Okay, going?
Go at least to 34.
Okay. When we told the angels, bow down before Adam, they all bowed, but not Iblis, who refused and was arrogant. He was disobedient. He said, Adam, live with your wife in the garden. Both of you eat freely where you will.
No, keep going all the way. Actually, I meant to 39.
Okay. But do not go near this tree, or you will both become wrongdoers. But Satan made them slip and rebuked them from the state they were in. He said, get out, all of you. You are each other's enemy. On earth you will have a place to stay and live livelihood for a time. Then Adam received some words from his Lord, and he accepted his repentance. He is the ever-relenting, the most merciful. We said, get out, all of you. But when guidance comes from me, as it certainly will, there will be no fear for those who follow my guidance, nor will they grieve. Those who disbelieve and deny our messages shall be inhabitants of the fire, and there they will remain.
Okay, exactly. Okay. In this section, ayah 30 through 39, we have three parts. One is ayah 30 through 34. The next part is ayah 35. And then the third part is 30 through 33. 30 through 33, I'm sorry. 30 through 33 is the first part. This is Allah in His announcement that He is making a Khalifa. The next part is ayah 34. This is the story of the sajda, the prostration. And then the last part is ayah 35 through 39. And this is the story of the tree. So the first is the announcement, the second is the prostration, and the third one is the tree. Okay, so let us look at ayah 30 through 34, or 30 through 33. So we are going to help understand the history ayahs, we're going to study them in a way similar to the way we studied the metaphor, the parables. And that's to take it piece by piece. Now, you can often tell when you are reading a history ayah because it begins with what is, which literally is and when. In some translations, I think our translator will say remember when such and such happened. Okay. So here, Allah made an announcement. Okay, what was the announcement?
He said that he is going to create a Khalifa.
Yeah, He's making a Khalifa in the earth.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's I'm intentionally not translating the word Khalifa because it is such a huge term. And even the different commentaries will give us different translations for different meanings of what Khalifa is. Okay. Dr. Abdullah, how would you just translate the word Khalifa itself?
Well, from the root khalafa, which means to succeed or to come after. That's one of the basic meaning that is there. But also to put as a trustee, as to assign somebody as a trustee on a certain thing, or over a certain thing.
Absolutely.
Does he mean the word leader?
Not leader in the sense, it's a trust, like amana. You see, it's like really the mission of man was put in trust of the earth that Allah created. So that's, I would be inclined to translate it as trustee rather than successor, because successor might imply that successor to whom? To Allah Himself?
Right.
Nobody can succeed to Allah. So I would be inclined to translate it as really vicegerent is fine. Some translation go that way, but actually trustee is really my preference.
A temporary trustee.
Yeah, of course, trustee, because we know it's a temporary because every man is going to die.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, obvious.
When the angels objected, they're gonna.
Okay, that probably get to that.
I know, but I mean, they're pointing probably the kingdom belonged to. There were some other people
Okay.
that were shedding each other's blood.
Okay, that part we'll talk about. We'll
Okay.
you can make that point in just a moment, inshallah. Yeah, first we're looking just at the definition. Think of, you've heard the term Salafi, right? What does Salaf mean?
Salaf means those who came after the Prophet.
In terms of the meaning itself, it's the ones who came before. Right? Salaf, like the
Salaf,
predecessor.
yeah, the one who came before, and then those who followed their path are called Salafis. Yeah.
So the term Salafi is often referring, what is it referring to? To the predecessors.
Predecessor, exactly. Yeah.
And then what are they referring specifically to this generation? A Khalafa, as Dr. Abdullah mentioned, is one who's coming later. Right? And that's why we have this translation, successor. But the better translation, especially in this context, is probably trustee.
Yeah.
Now, what is common among all the different interpretations of what does it mean to be Khalifa? Some will have a political understanding. Like, for example, we use the term Khalifa to refer to the leaders, the rightly guided Khalifas, essentially, after the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him. We might use the word Khalifa to speak of a moral responsibility. We might use Khalifa sometimes politically, sometimes not politically. But what's common among all these commentaries is that they speak of a responsibility. So think back again to what we saw in Ayah 29. In Ayah 29, we saw that the earth and everything was made for us. And in Ayah 30, we have been made with responsibility on the earth. Okay. So Allah made the earth to serve us, and Allah made us to serve Him, and part of that is to take care of the same earth that is serving us. So it's this two-way relationship with the earth. Earth is here to serve us, and we are here to be caretakers, to be trustees on the earth. So he announced, I am going to create a Khalifa on the earth. And then the angels said to him, are you going to create someone who's going to shed blood? While what we do, we glorify you, we praise you. Now, this is the point that you're going to make. So, why are they saying this? Why are they saying, are you going to create someone who's going to shed blood? What are possible reasons?
Well, I think there may have been a previous creation that they were shedding each other's blood.
So one possibility is they're looking at the earth. I'm sorry?
The genies were, something was there, and just there was too much, and when they raised the objection, probably they were talking from experience.
Okay.
They were there, that's what they were doing.
So
and then Adam's first children.
that probably haven't got Okay, so one understanding why are the angels saying, are you going to create someone who's going to shed blood, is maybe they've already seen what's been taking place on the earth. Before the, I'm sorry?
Who was on earth then?
Maybe animals,
So
maybe
animals-
jinns. There's a narration, we'll get into this in terms of the story of Iblis, not in the Qur'an, but in other sources, that part of the story of Iblis is that on earth there was this huge war between the jinns, and then Iblis essentially established justice between them. And one of his nicknames was Al-Hakam. I think this is probably Israeliyat sources that are coming from biblical scholars. But so one understanding is that there was bloodshed at the jinn realm. Another is if we look at animals. I mean, what are animals doing? They're shedding blood. Or maybe, what are they asking? Who would be better for this job than us? All we do is praise you and glorify you. Anything other than that, ultimately is going to be someone who's going to shed blood. The opposite.
What did the angels know that they were gonna have? Did they didn't have knowledge of the future? Did you explain that? Or,
Well, in terms of the Quran itself, it doesn't give us any answers to that.
yeah.
Right.
You know,
So one possibility is that the angels have already seen what's taking place on the earth.
saw the future. You mean?
I'm sorry?
They saw the future, or I mean,
Not necessarily the future, but just what's already taking place.
all
You know,
the-
if you think of how do animals live, right? I mean, animals live in communities, but also animals eat each other, right? Or,
I like them.
but ultimately,
Human beings dropped the atomic bomb.
okay, but before, because human beings haven't been born yet, right? That's
Yes.
coming later on, right? But another point is that angels felt, in terms of their understanding, that, okay, the best job for a trustee, or the best person for a trustee would be an angel.
Yeah.
Right? Because all angels do
Yeah.
is praise, glorify Allah. Another understanding here is the difference between the material world and the world of light and faith. The material world works all by friction. Think of how does the universe work? It works over and over again by friction. Okay? Things all getting rubbed up against each other, and then you have further creation. Whereas light works by way of harmony. Guidance works by way of harmony. And they're looking at the earth as a material world where everything happens by things crashing into each other. Different understandings. At the end of the day, the bottom line is that the angels raised a question. Okay, now in our understandings, do the angels have the ability to disobey Allah? Our understanding, no. Okay, again, I'm making this point. In contrast to biblical tradition, specifically in Christian tradition, we do not believe that an angel can fall. Okay? And this again, I mean, this is not a criticism of this way or that way. In our tradition, right, angels do not have free will.
Well, wasn't Satan one of the angels before?
No, that's why I'm raising this point.
That Christianity, in the Bible, they teach the fact that Satan fell,
Was a
was
fallen
one of the
angel.
angels.
Yeah, right. That in biblical tradition, Satan is a fallen angel, right?
Yeah.
If we only read this passage in Al-Baqarah,
Yeah.
it also looks like this. When we're going to talk about the sajda, all the angels did sajda, but not Iblis, right? It's easy to read it as though Iblis is an angel. Then we see later on, this is in Surah Al-Kahf, Surah 18, where he says that I'm a jinn, or he's one of the jinn. So, what are we saying here? We have essentially three types of conscious beings.
When they make him a little bit special, that he says, besides you, I don't want to worship anybody.
And that part we'll get to also, inshallah. So, angels, jinns, humans. Oops. One point of angels is they have no free will. And free will here means the ability to disobey Allah. If Allah tells an angel to do this, the angel will do this. Okay? But we do see angels have the ability to ask Allah, like they are doing here. You know, I'll tell you one story that some of you may have heard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells this angel, go destroy this town. Okay? And the angel goes, getting ready to destroy this town. And he's noticing everybody in the town has rejected Allah except for this one guy. This one guy, he's in the house of worship, and he's just praying nonstop. And he's praying nonstop, and the angel's watching him for some 500 years. And this person doesn't even blink out of prayer. And the angel goes back to Allah and says, are you sure this is the town that you want me to destroy? Because they have this really pious person. And what's the answer? Destroy him first. Right? Because he didn't even blush while his whole town was falling apart. Right? He was spending all his time in prayer. But the point here, well, it's a side story. The point here is that angels that have the ability to question Allah, they don't have the ability to disobey. They don't have the ability to fall. Jinns have free will. Some say that jinns, if it's a good jinn, it's hard to become bad. If it's a bad jinn, it's hard to become good. Allah knows best. And humans have free will. Again, what is free will here? The ability to disobey Allah. The key point I'm making is angels do not. In our tradition, angels do not have that ability. Think about if angels had the ability to disobey Allah, what would that say then about the Qur'an? If the Qur'an is being delivered by an angel, puts it at big risk.
What is that again?
It's Jibreel alayhi salam, he's an angel. He's responsible to deliver the Qur'an. Okay? If he has the ability to disobey Allah, then we'll look at the risk, right?
Even he could have been tempted by Satan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the angels ask, are you going to create someone who's going to shed blood while all we do is praise you and glorify you? And then what is Allah's answer? I know what you do not know. Now think about this. This is also very, very natural. When the boss makes an announcement, if you don't understand what the function or the wisdom is of the announcement, naturally you're going to ask the question. Are you sure this is the right way? Are you sure this is the right thing to do? But here's this question. Is it okay to question Allah? What do you think? The angels are questioning Allah. Is it okay for us to question Allah? What are you saying?
Yeah, why not? If you don't understand,
Okay.
He can guide us.
Okay. So one possibility might be, okay, yeah, Allah, what is the answer to this?
Yes.
You're making a point? Right.
Oh, I say no, but I mean, you know, I mean to do all stuff like that, but we don't. I would say no.
Okay. Okay. And why would you say no?
I would say no because we just once he give an order, that's it. We don't question his orders. Say, well, what about all this and all that? I mean,
Okay.
problems on that. So for Muslim, it's like no, we don't question law.
Okay. Okay. So there might be some aspects where we might not question.
You're really questioning God's wisdom.
Okay. So here, so what? So explain further.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's nothing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does in vain.
Okay.
If to us, if we don't understand it, it sounds like it could be in vain. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all wise, and in the Qur'an you read the fact that He says that He has not created this and that in vain.
Okay.
There is a purpose. So basically, what you're doing is something that you don't understand, and your question is Allah's wisdom. But
Okay.
to you, right now, it doesn't make any sense. In the future, it's
Okay. Very nice. Yes. Okay. Two different types of questions. Okay.
Some question because they want to know the answer.
Okay.
Other question just for mockery.
Oh, nice point. So we saw. Mhm. Okay, so we just saw just 2 hours ago that these authors were saying, okay, what does God mean by this, right? And we're saying, okay, that's mockery. They didn't really care about the answer, right? If you're caring about the answer, that's different. Okay? Any other thoughts? I mean, there's a few issues here. You ask questions if you're ready for the answer. Okay? What if you don't want the answer? Okay? For example, let's go to Surah 5. I think it's Ayah 101. And whoever's there, please tell us what page number it is.
67.
Page 67. And this particular ayah, when I discuss this with many of my students, it's very, very hard for them because it doesn't sound right. And I think it's 101 and 102. Why don't you read for us?
77. 101 is on 77.
101 is 37.
You who believe do not ask about matters which, if made known to you, might make things difficult for you. If you ask about them while the Qur'an is being revealed, they will be made known to you. For God has kept silent about them. God is most forgiving and forbearing. Before you, some people ask about things that did not ask.
Okay, good, very nice. All right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayahs saying that everyone who is able has to go on Hajj. So one of the companions asked the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with the companion, peace be upon the Prophet, does this mean we have to go on Hajj every year? Okay. And the Prophet, peace be upon him, did not answer him. And then again, Ya Rasulullah, do we have to go on Hajj every year now if we're able? Because the ayah says if you're able, you have to go on Hajj. Okay. Again, the Prophet, peace be upon him, didn't answer. Third time he asks him, and the Prophet says to him, if I tell you yes, then you have to go. So the understanding is don't ask. Now I'll give you another example. Some companions were with the other companion, Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, and it was time for Salah. And there was a river, and they're going to the river to do wudu. And one of the companions asked, is this water okay for us? And Umar says, don't ask that question. What if you find out that it's not? Then we can say, well, there's an exception, you do tayammum and this and that. But one point of this ayah that we're looking at is don't ask questions that are going to make your life difficult. If you don't want to hear the answer, then don't ask those questions.
ولا تسألوا عن أشياء إن تبد لكم تسؤ.
Translation for
You don't ask about things that if they were revealed to you, it will be to your disadvantage. You will be disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So there's a discipline in asking questions. Now, also in relationship with asking Allah, so one issue is, are you ready for the answer? Okay. If you're not ready for the answer, don't ask the question in the first place. Allah knows what you know, Allah knows what you don't know. Okay. And if you think of all the knowledge you already have plenty to think about anyway. There's also the matter of adab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we were looking at Al-Fatiha, what did we say? Al-Fatiha, it says, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ, not of those on whom is anger. It doesn't say not of those on whom is your anger, Allah. Okay? So also in speaking about Allah or in speaking to Allah, there's an adab there. There's a politeness, manners that are involved.
So what do you do? I mean, human being has his brain, Allah has given a very powerful brain. I don't know how much percentage would you depend on yourself rather than a translation or understanding of it. Maybe you're a hard-hearted person and reading Qur'an all day long and still doesn't affect your psychology or anything. You're a terrible person. I have an uncle. He had killed 6 people. He was reading Qur'an all day long.
Okay.
His 2 children were killed and terrible.
I don't understand what your question is.
Well, what I'm saying is how much is common sense. Allah, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ أَفَلَا تَبْصِرُونَ أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ أَفَلَا تَشْعُرُونَ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. He's telling use your own.
Yeah, use your sense.
Yeah, use
Absolutely.
your senses. And when there's punishment, Allah says, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. This is your human problem. How do you see fit to if you leave it to Allah, Allah will forgive it. So I think human beings have to depend on 80% on themselves. Maybe they have
Percentage Allah knows best. I mean, that's a whole conversation on its own. But the point here, the simple point is that questions are fine, okay? But you have to be ready for the answers. If you're not ready for the answer, don't ask those questions. And there's also manners that are involved. Okay, now moving a step further. So then, Allah teaches Adam, peace be upon him, the names of everything. Okay? And then he turns to the angels and he says to them, okay, inform me of the names of these if you are truthful. Okay? So now this raises another question. What do we mean by the names? Another common question. Allah teaches Adam the names of everything. What could this mean?
He was the most knowledgeable.
Okay, so Adam, peace be upon him, was knowledgeable. Knowledge.
He taught everything about the worldly things, or maybe.
Okay. So one understanding is that knowledge begins with names. Knowledge begins with being able to identify things, right? Knowledge of everything.
So it wasn't just given to Adam, it came into his genealogy and his...
Allah knows best. Maybe it's something specifically that Adam has, peace be upon him. Maybe it's something that Adam has that's now part of our genetics, so to speak.
God will just keep it in heaven. All human beings need it. I'm going to get them out of heaven.
But it doesn't say that it's something that is needed, right? It just says that it's the names of everything.
I don't know if you could, everybody has to have their own understanding and their own understanding of it. When you want to translate religion, this is the only way, then you choke it to death.
Sure, okay.
Because everybody has to come up with some explanation of their own, so God has blessed them to the great head. And I'm sure they can understand the things. If they want to, maybe not today, in other books, look at the other books, get knowledge, and you will get there.
Okay.
Hopefully.
I missed your point again, but hold on, Brother Bashir.
I got a question. Language existed then?
Well, there's some sort of communication that's taking place here. Right? Is the communication in the form of words? Allah knows best.
Inspiration,
Maybe language may not be language of the
Names are
time.
intended as the basis of language, communication, and that's why one ayah which says إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم لآيات, so the basis of taught him the names of things, so there would be the language, the human language for communication.
So this could be the starting point of language. Language might be coming from there. Another understanding is these are the names of Allah. He's giving him all the names of Allah. Either way, that part of the detail is not given. The bottom line here is that Allah is giving Adam, peace be upon him, these names. And then he turns to the angels, okay, you give me these names. And what do the angels say?
We don't know.
They say, Subhanaka, okay, glory to you. Why did it say glory to you? Because they just said all we do is glorify you, right? So they begin, Subhanaka la ilma lana. We have no knowledge, okay? Illa ma alamtana, okay? Except what you have taught us.
In this situation, when you say names, are you referring to the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
So one reading is that the names here are the attributes of Allah. Another reading is that the names are the names of everything. Another reading is that this is a knowledge that Allah has given Adam that is now part of the human race. Another reading is exactly this point, that it's the whole foundation of language and then all the growth that happens from it. All these are different readings of what is meant by names. Right? But the key issue here, what is the key lesson? That Allah gave Adam the names, and he turned to the angels, and they did not know, and they say, glory to you, we don't know anything except for what you've taught us. Okay. Now, the situation could end there, because now we see Adam has something that the angels do not have. He has knowledge that the angels do not have. In comparing and contrasting angels, jinns, and humans, which one's the most superior of all the creations, or the best of all creations? Humans. Why are humans the best of all creations?
Because they can think.
One is that we have a level of intellect that the others do not have. So this is really to your point about the brain. That humans have this capacity of intellect.
Well, it's kind of a relative kind of thing. Who is more capacity? On Earth, it seems like human beings would be the one. But again, everything is relative.
Okay.
What we know in a limited thing, I don't know behind the other side of the wall.
Okay.
Neither anything mystery or,
Okay.
You put the money in your pocket, how much money you don't know. There's so many things we don't know. We know, a lot of things. We make plans, we could pick up a telephone and call the numbers and all over the world. And these are really scientific, great people, which previous people couldn't do.
Sure.
And when Allah said, I know what you know not, there's a creation that's going to be coming, the genes will get better, they won't shed each other's blood, they will come to senses.
Maybe, yeah.
So many things one could catch upon. Majority of them would be bad. There will be some people who would pray that because of their prayer, the earth is revolving. And you could put all kind of understanding.
So part of it is that we have the intellect, and part of it is that there's the world beyond. Just like we saw with Alif Lam Mim, right? With Alif Lam Mim, we're saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
So. Okay.
But with the first children of Adam, they killed the brother killed the boy and the woman. And after the Prophet died, Umar is killed, Usman is killed, Ali is killed. World War I, World War II, do you think their stomach are full, they'll go to sleep, they're bombing, atomic bombs, tanks, and all these things that are creating.
It's possible that they had some knowledge of what humans would
Maybe
be like.
in the end they will get better. Hey, we
Maybe.
had enough of this thing, let's come to senses and stuff.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, now this conversation could have ended there, right? Allah says to the angels, give me the names of all these things, and they say, glory to you, we have no knowledge except for what you've given us. Okay? But it continues. Then what happens? Then Allah tells Adam, peace be upon him, okay, you give the names. And he does so. What would be the point? Okay. The angels have already said, we have no knowledge except for what you've given us. We see Adam, has this knowledge we don't have, so it seems Adam is the most qualified to be the Khalifa, more qualified than us. So what would be the point of making Adam now give the names?
To show the superiority of
So it's to show his superiority, but don't the angels already accept it? It may be for Adam himself. Okay. Adam, you give the names. Okay. And Adam is seeing himself that he can give the names. The angels could not.
But that was not as God given.
Say again?
Why وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها.
Okay.
Everything I gave this man. He didn't create on his own.
He didn't create what?
He did not
Who's he here?
make things on his own, the names of anything.
Who's he?
Adam.
Yeah, right. That's understood. Right.
Yeah, but Allah gave him وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها. I gave him the whole knowledge. Now human beings go to college and revive all these old
Sure,
things,
sure.
and that's how it is, you know.
Mhm.
So collectively, we sit together, learn from each other, and stuff like that. So
But the point here in this ayah is what do we see? That Adam is now showing he can do it, right?
yeah,
And he is fulfilling this assignment. He is seeing, the angels are seeing that he is the one who is qualified, but he is also seeing that he is the one who is most qualified for this position. Okay. What am I saying? What is the lesson here? The lesson here, number one, is that knowledge comes from Allah. Right? We
Yes.
have the faculties, we have the capacity, we have the world to interact with. Two, there's the issue of responsibility. I mean, not necessarily in order. Two, we have responsibility on the earth.
to plants, to human, to animals,
Everything.
to everything.
To Allah, to humanity, to the earth.
Right.
And there's also an appropriate way to ask questions to Allah. Okay? What we're doing, we're taking the lesson from the history, from this passage. The next story is the story of the sajda.
Is it sajda in classical means to bow down? Just accept this is a new creation.
Now that we're going to talk about. That's exactly what we'll be speaking about.
Okay.
Okay. So, the next story. First story is this announcement of the Khalifa. The second story. Allah tells the angels, do sajda to Adam. And they did sajda. Okay? But not Iblis. He rejected, or he refused, and then he sought or became arrogant, and he was among the kafirs. Okay. Now, the first point we made is that just looking at the way it's written, it's easy to read this and think that, okay, Iblis must be one of the angels. Because it says, the angels did sajda, but not Iblis. Okay? But it's like we say, suppose someone says, all the students stand up, and they all stood up, but not the donkey. Right? Same form that we have here. Now, why did the angels do sajda?
Allah ordered them.
The reason they did sajda is because Allah told them to do sajda. Okay? There's the form and there's the meaning. Okay? Why did they do sajda? Allah ordered them. Why do we face the Kaaba when it's time for salah? Okay? Are we worshiping the Kaaba? No. Are we saying the Kaaba is superior? No. Why are we facing that way? That's what we were ordered to do. The sajda, the form of the sajda, is to Adam. Okay? But the actual worship, the obedience, the real sajda was to Allah. Okay? Allah told them to do sajda to Adam. So who are they doing sajda for? Adam or for Allah? For Allah. For Allah. For themselves.
But when
Yeah, go for it.
some of these ayah, also clearly, the heavens and earth do not contain me, but the heart of the believer contains me.
Well, that's an ayah hadith, but you
No,
have hadith what's in
if Allah does not live on bricks or something, He
Okay.
could be living in the human heart.
Okay.
And when something Khalifa was made, the potentiality of this would be, the believer would be God's house.
Okay.
And so when they was asking, this is maybe it. If a voice come from an empty tree or a desert, you know, Musa, this is a holy place. And the human heart could be a good place for God to live.
Sure.
So I don't know, something in that understanding is that this human being has a lot of capacity. He could be God's Khalifa.
Okay.
In a believer's heart, God lives there, or I don't know, something.
Okay.
And,
Well,
and,
this is
and when Iblis talks to Allah face to face, belief in God is not that important. We're stuck by our kind of
that part we'll get into in a second. That part we'll get into in just a moment. Okay, so what do we have? One part we have the form, right? They are doing sajda because Allah told them to do. Their sajda is essentially sajda to Allah. Now the meaning here, okay, if they're doing sajda to Adam, what then is the meaning? This is some of the points that were made. So this is looked at symbolically as saying that the angels, or that Adam is superior to the angels. Okay. Now, so what is the key point that I'm saying? Keep in mind that the sajda they're doing is to Allah. The form or the direction is to Adam.
Yeah,
But
the
now, please.
Mufassirun says it's not a sajda of ibadah.
Oh, nice point.
It's not a sajda of ibadah, it's a
Ibadah to
sajda
Adam.
of respect.
Yeah.
Only Allah is worthy of sajda of ibadah.
Yeah.
The ones that we do, but it is a sajda of respect.
Sure. Yeah.
Just like the people in the old days that would make sajda to the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that is the same analogy that the peers take this way. They say that whatever my murids are doing, the sajda to me
Okay.
is for the ta'zim, the respect.
Okay.
But it is the ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
This is an interesting point because in our area we get especially extra sensitive about these things that we found quite a bit through our tradition in terms of the posture, bowing type things that we have throughout much of our history that today we get very allergic to, right? The sajda of the ibadah, you're saying, is different than a sajda of respect. But I'm saying the ibadah here is still to Allah, right? So, okay. But now let us turn to Iblis's response. We see three things here. One, he refused. Okay. Second, he grew arrogant. Okay. Or he saw it from arrogance. And the third, the result is that he was among the kafirs. Okay. Now, just looking at the lesson on its own, I think the lesson is very easy here. Okay. Iblis rejected the sajda. We'll talk about more background information in just a moment, inshallah. The lesson, Iblis rejected the sajda, he refused it, and he became arrogant. And there's a couple big questions here in the story of Iblis, the accursed. One, is about the refusal. As we know,
Going on.
I don't know what to do.
Press.
The project, I
This is so strange. Okay, his refusal. Who was the command for sajda to? Allah told who to do sajda? Told the angels. Told the angels.
And to believe.
What did he say it to Iblis? This is the question. The command was to the angels. Iblis is not an angel. Okay? He's a jinn. And he's still refusing. So there's a couple understandings here. One understanding is that Iblis had such a status that he was included in the sajda and he refused. The other understanding is that no, the command was for the angels and still Iblis refused. Okay? Is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, why did you not fulfill this command? What does Iblis say? You will know. You made me from fire, you made him from clay, and I'm better than him. You made me from fire, you made him from clay. Okay? Iblis could have said, yeah, the command wasn't for me. He could have said, I only do sajda to Allah. He could have said a whole bunch of other things. But why did he refuse?
Because he thought he's superior.
Yeah. Even if the command was for him, perhaps he would refuse. So one understanding I'm saying is that he's included among the angels in terms of the command, and he's refusing. The other understanding is that even though the command is for angels, he's still refusing. Okay, all those people are doing sajda, I'm never doing sajda. The problem is still the same.
Is it a human condition that even if you may be a teacher, you still have to be big, a child? You've got to be learning from things. You
I would
cannot
say-
impose yourself that I'm superior, I know everything or something.
Let's say I could act like a teacher and say, no, you're wrong, I know everything. No, the best teachers are the
What
ones
I'm
that learn
saying
from their
is human
students.
beings have to be humble enough all the time. There's all kind of scenarios.
Yeah,
I'm just giving a different perspective maybe.
go for it.
Let's say Allah have angels, Allah have jinns,
Okay.
and they all obey Him and they, respect His commands.
Mhm.
But when Allah created Hazrat Adam, so he was all good. I mean, everybody respected him. But that would be, I'm just saying as a film perspective, that maybe that would be like dull and boring. Like it's good and
make it
everything.
exciting.
So if you want to make it exciting,
Okay.
so Iblis has said something wrong
Mhm.
and created evil. So
Mhm.
good cannot be without
Okay.
evil. So
Okay.
that
So there's so your point is that maybe Iblis is making things exciting. There's two poems by Iqbal. One is Jibril or Iblis,
Yeah.
and the other one is something like Iblis's sorrow. And in Jibril and Iblis, Iblis is making fun of Jibril, saying essentially your life is so boring. There's nothing. Mm.
There's a whole lot of poems.
Mm.
Those things.
But yeah, he's saying that my life is a life that's full of interesting things, right?
and
Another possibility
Yes,
is
sir.
that those type of creation, the jinn and the angels, didn't live like in a clearly marked
Yeah.
space, so
Yeah.
they could intermingle.
Yeah.
And the Iblis happened to be a curious kind of, and then he saw the assembly of the angels and this event, and he just went there in the same space, and so he was with the angels, and
And so the command.
Allah also possibly arranged for this, because it will happen that he will fall and then he will be misguiding people, etc. So it's part of Allah's plan to create, I mean.
Yeah, that one way or the other. I mean, ultimately, in both cases, he's refusing.
Yeah.
If the command is for him, right, included among the angels, it's for him, right?
Those present, those
Yeah.
present, and he happened to be present, that's, how he came in there, just a reasonable way of thinking about it, that it was no segregation between these heavenly creatures at that time, and they could just intermingle or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
In other traditions, when
Yes,
you
sir.
ask them if there is any devil stories in these other scriptures of other people, they would say, yeah, there are dark forces in the universe. They want to destabilize human beings or whatever. But in the Quranic context of the Western tradition thing, it's a very, very clear story. They don't know in the tradition how we got into this mess.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, the story of the Quranic stories or the biblical stories, they're pointing this way that humans got into trouble of this particular circumstances. That وَلَا تَقْرَبَ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَ.
Okay.
Don't get close to the tree.
You're also raising an interesting point here. For our perspective, who created Iblis? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But out of manners, we don't say that. It's understood.
Who raised him? Who gave him milk in the plate of who?
Well, yeah, I don't know,
Rumi has a lot of stuff on this.
But the point that I'm making here is that it's understood. Okay. In some other traditions, it's considered blasphemy. No, Allah or God is good. Therefore, where does evil come from? We don't know. Okay. We say, all is coming from Allah. Okay. But those things we consider to be bad might be the result of what our hands have done. But out of manners, we don't associate that with Allah.
Is the incident that the Iblis did not make sujda to Adam and brought him down?
Well, this is getting into the next part, right? Perfect setup. So Iblis refuses, and then he becomes arrogant. Why do people act arrogant? Why do people behave arrogantly?
They think they are
see themselves
superior.
big.
I'm saying arrogance is a defense mechanism. That people hide behind.
But it came in a lot of shapes and forms.
Many shapes and forms, absolutely. What do we speak about? What is the shield that you want? You want taqwa. Taking Allah as your shield. But what some people will do is to defend their refusal, to hide behind, they will become arrogant.
But
It's-
that's not a good shield, is it?
It's like taking a balloon as a shield.
Yeah, right.
It's a very, very weak shield. That we have in the narrations of Bani Israel later on in the Qur'an that whenever a messenger comes to you with something that you don't want, okay, you become arrogant. Okay? You hide behind arrogance, and some you accuse of lying, and some you even kill.
You create some bubble around yourself.
Yeah, you create. It's basically a bubble. And so the act of arrogance might, the person who's arrogant might think I'm better than them, but really it's a defense mechanism. It's a shield you're hiding behind. So the key issue is that he refused and then he hid behind arrogance. And then that became a path to become among the disbelievers. So, what are the lessons here? One lesson is if Allah gives a command, you accept it, you do it. But if you don't do it, all of us at different times in our life, we fall short. The question is, why don't you do it? Okay? Sometimes it might be willpower, but don't let it be refusal. Okay? Even if I'm not doing something Allah tells me to do, don't have the attitude of refusal. Have the attitude that, okay, that's not the level that I'm at yet. I know I'm supposed to do this, but I'm not at that level yet. Okay? As opposed to refusal. Refusal's bad. Okay?
This is a story for us that we go through every day.
This is maybe daily, maybe hourly, maybe annually. Okay? The lesson here, even the story is about angels and jinns. The lessons is for us.
Right.
Okay? Absolutely. The third story we'll save for next week, inshallah.
Okay.
The third story is going to be the story of the tree, and then we're going to put all of this together. And one point that I'll be making is that we often read this story as the fall of mankind. I'm saying, no, this whole story is the fall of Iblis. Not in our tradition, it is not the fall of mankind. I'll repeat this next week, inshallah. Okay, but now we have to do our circles. Okay, so let's see. So all the sisters, you can be together again. Okay, I'm going to give you a number. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, we'll make it 4 groups of 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so maybe group 1 here, group 2 here, group 3 here, group 4 here.
Both standing.
Yes. Then you'll have to explain to Dr. Abdullah what we're doing. And the sisters will be the 4 together, inshallah. Okay. So same thing as last week. Please make a circle. Put your arms around each other, nice and tight. Hey, Brother Hussein, you want to How are we winding up? Are there 5 people here?
I start, I say to
Why don't you just go here? Why don't you go here?
what's your name?
You guys all want to the same group? Okay. So put your arms around each other. So make sure you do each person 1 by 1, and then the next person 1 by 1.
And what do you do?
Great, anything that you want to say.
Anything?
Same thing exactly as last week. So just to repeat the instructions, because it seems that some of us have forgotten. Okay, one person in the group starts, and that person starts with the person to the right and say, may Allah reward you for anything, being here, being Muslim, learning. And then the person number 1 again goes to the next one and says, may Allah reward you for something, and then to the next one, may Allah reward you. And once that first person has said it to everyone, then the next person in the circle 1 by 1,
Okay.
and then the next person in the circle 1 by 1.
Then once I'm done,
Okay.
you say it.
And get to know each otother's names, if you don't know everyone's names.
May Allah bless you for coming to today. Ibrahim. Ibrahim, may Allah bless you for taking the time to come to
Shadow.
with the show. May Allah bless you for participating in this. Now you say
That means you have to remember the name.
Just ask him, just ask him.
Can I ask you, Brother Ibrahim?
Yeah.
Brother Ibrahim was pleasure to help you with that. You have to repeat the exact words. Pleasure to.
We can do another round if you want.
Part of yourself to get to know you.
How did you guys all wind up in the same room?
Brother Shahar is pleasure
I probably went 1, 2, 3,
to be
4.
with you in one circle, sharing knowledge and Brother Mansour, it was a pleasure meeting you
And then, what I have a different
being
voice.
with you in one circle where we are living together.
Yeah, I should actually look it up.
So,
Yeah, very nice.
something, it's a pleasure being here together, learning with you. It's a great blessing from Allah for us to be able to come together, learn more of Him and more knowledge of Him. Get together and come together as Muslims. It's a great blessing. Mansour.
Mansour means victorious.
Oh,
If you forget his name, you can use victorious.
victorious in your understanding, your pursuit of knowledge. Alhamdulillah. And this is Brother
Fadl. Fadl means bounty of God or Fadlullah. It's in the Qur'an, you know.
Fadullah.
Fadlullah is the long one, but the short one is Fadl.
Brother, may Allah bless you. Continue to grow in your understanding of Islam. Continue to be a blessing to other people in Arabic and the language and the knowledge. May Allah continue to bless you.
Here, Allah bless you for being with us, joining us, sharing your wisdom with us.
I know you might
That's a good question. Okay, we'll wait for them to finish, then we'll just go on. We'll finish.
We took the longest.
Two times, yeah.
No, I don't think that's wrong. Yeah, that's what we'll talk about next week. That's the Christian understanding, that's not the Islamic understanding. Yeah. Just These brothers are really wishing me well. At least they're smiling, which is good.
The sense of respect. Looking at this thing, is it allowed?
I'd say we have it in history, but it's something to be careful with. Yeah.
As a new creation, acceptance.
Again, the bottom line is that the obedience is to Allah.
What is something I did here?
Forgiving people.
Yeah, that's okay. That's very good. Really
Okay, to recap a few things, inshallah, please continue along with your assignments. Assignment number 1 is to underline all the references to Allah in the Qur'an. And now we're deep into July. My suggestion is that if you've been doing 20 ayahs a day, increase it then to 30 ayahs a day. And that'll only add about 30 seconds more to your work. That's number 1. Continue to do that. And then when August comes, inshallah, increase it to 40 ayahs a day. Anytime there's a reference to Allah, either Allah by name or the pronoun He or they, underline, or any of the attributes of Allah, Lord of mercy, Giver of mercy, Master, underline it, doing 20 ayahs a day. And if you're in the middle of a paragraph, just finish the paragraph. Okay. That's number 1. Number 2, continue with the mercy exercise. The mercy exercise is to take some time, maybe even in a notebook, and identify 5 mercies in your life. Okay? Maybe even in that day. That's probably easier to do. And once you made a list of 5, then from within, try to say Alhamdulillah. Okay? Next day, do the same thing, different 5, don't repeat. Okay? In addition, if I didn't mention this, we were discussing nature, last week and this week. Try to spend some time, a certain amount of time in nature, but try your best not to think. Okay? To spend time in nature, outdoors in some capacity. Okay? And if you're so busy you don't have time, maybe look at a picture of nature or something, right? But spend some time in nature. Again, especially in our era, it's very easy to spend your whole time in a bubble, car, building, what have you. Okay? And so let us end with dua. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله. So we'll meet again.